Hey guys, it's Luke here. In this short video, we are talking about the Panasonic LUMIX G7 Micro Four Thirds camera. I have owned and used this device basically since it came out, a couple of years now, and I've used it for everything. So for photo taking, for creating video content, even a lot of the content on my Amazon channel here. I've used it for YouTube, for all kinds of different things. And it has been such a fantastic camera, and I just wanted to share my experience. So let's just have a quick look around the device. So you can see I've got shutter release and a dial on the front there, dedicated video record, we've got a multi-purpose function button, we've got another scroll wheel at the back here, the on-off switch is just here, and then you get a light to let you know that it's on. And then obviously we can change between all the different modes with this dial here. Now along here we have the hot shoe. It also has a built-in flash, which is really cool because it's actually, looking at it, it's quite well hidden. The button is just here on the back, so you click that, it will release the flash. And then we also have this dial over here to change between different shooting modes. So you know, if you want to do burst, if you want to use 4K photo mode, which is actually a really handy mode to have, you can do all of that over here. Along the back we have the electronic viewfinder, and there's a small sensor here that knows when your eye is close to the actual viewfinder. Very handy. We have another dedicated function button. We can change between all of the different focus modes. We have again another function button here that you can set to whatever you like. We can change the display mode on the screen here. We can do ISO, white balance, all the different things that you would expect on a modern day camera. And then probably the star of the show here is this really big, beautiful rotating flip screen. Now, this is actually one of the reasons I decided to go with the Panasonic G7, because it gives you the ability to bring this screen out and flip it around so that when you're in front of the camera you can actually see yourself and you can see if you're in frame. It's incredibly helpful. I do a lot of top-down shooting, so right now I've got the Panasonic G9 attached just here, and I use that flip-out screen basically like this. So I turn it so that I can see what I'm looking at down on the desk here. Very handy feature. It is completely touchscreen, meaning you can touch to focus, you can navigate through all the menus with the touchscreen, and the touchscreen is actually very good. It's very responsive for a camera. You can pinch to zoom, and there's a lot of things that you kind of expect on a modern smartphone that Panasonic have built in to the software. So I actually was a Sony shooter, and when I seen the specs for the G7 and what it did, I actually decided to sell my Sony gear and jump across to the Panasonic LUMIX G7, and I'm very glad I did so. It has been such a great camera, and it has really helped me sort of grow into becoming a better videographer and creating better content. So along the bottom we obviously have our battery port, and this is where our SD card slot goes. In most modern cameras that's on the side, and in a lot of the more expensive Lumix cameras that's on the side, but in this one it's just at the bottom. We also have a spot here for the battery, and the battery is the Panasonic BLC12E, and I think from memory this is rated for about 300 shots. So basically guys, I don't actually really use this to take a lot of photos. I actually use it specifically for video, and I can get about an hour and 40 minutes of video recording from a full charge in this particular model. The other thing that I purchased was this little guy here, so that when I'm using this as my dedicated top-down camera to shoot video reviews like this, you can actually just pop this in, and you no longer have to have a battery in there, and this little cable pops out the side here and is permanently in there, so that you can just run this off AC power. I'll actually link this particular battery pack just below this video. It's very helpful if you're going to do things like Twitch streaming or, any kind of streaming. Okay, so let's look at the side of the camera. So inside this slot here is where we can attach a couple of different things. So you can add in a remote up the top. You can add in HDMI. This is like a mini HDMI. So if you want to run this out to a monitor, whatever like device, you can do that. So it's actually really good that that's included with this camera. And then there is also a second USB port here, and that's kind of to use the dedicated Panasonic USB cable. So if you want to like transfer files, you can do that with that connection at the very bottom. Personally, I never use that. I actually just eject the SD card and just plug that straight into my MacBook. One of the really cool things about this camera is the fact you do get a mic port. So this is kind of half the reason I swapped from Sony cameras. Is there were cameras in a similar price range that just didn't have like the mic input, didn't have like HDMI out and all those types of things. Whereas with the Lumix G7, you do get a lot of that included. And for me personally, I was putting a Rode Video Mic Pro on the top here, plugging it into the mic port, and that would dramatically improve the voice quality that I would get from this camera. Okay, so let's have a look inside the menus on this camera so you can kind of see all the different things that it can do. So to do that, just on the back here, you push the menu button, and you can see we've got various options down the side here on the left, and then you can use the up and down arrows to go through each of the different menus. I find this very intuitive, and I find it's very easy to navigate through. Again, you can use like touch functionality. One thing I really love is when I review photos on this particular camera, just with this button here, if I've taken a photo and I want to actually just zoom in, I don't have to use this here. I can just use the touchscreen and just like pinch and zoom, which is very much like using an iPhone or a modern day smartphone. So I really do love that. For me, obviously, I do a lot of video, and there are some really good video recording options on this camera. So we've got 4K, 100 meg at 30p, and we've got 4K, 100 meg at 24p, Full HD 28 meg, 60p, Full HD 20 meg, 30p, HD 10 meg, 30p, and VGA. You also have the option to swap between MP4 and AVC HD. I personally use MP4, that's just my choice, but there's just a lot of versatility that you get with the Lumix G7 as a video camera. So I think really this camera is ideal for anyone that's getting started with YouTube, starting their own like Twitch channel, getting started with making video content, because you get a very beautiful 4K recording that comes out of this camera. And at this price point, that's really quite impressive that Panasonic was able to do that. And the fact that you get so much that you can do in the Micro Four Thirds world, like a really good lens for this camera. So this is a Sigma lens. This is an f1.4 16mm. To get this lens on like a full frame sensor or Canon or Nikon or whatever, you're probably going to be looking at $1,000 to $1,500 for a very good video lens. Whereas on Micro Four Thirds, they're much more affordable, and you might be looking between sort of $600 to $800 to $1,000. And I think that that's really good for people getting started with videography and, want to get started with content making. So as a stills camera, it does do some really cool stuff. The 4K photo mode, which is this one just here, allows you to essentially take a video, and you might shoot for 2 minutes, 3 minutes or something like that, and then you can actually go back through your menu and you can manually pick the various images from that video that you want to keep as stills. Very cool feature. It's really good. So if you were, doing like family like photos, or somebody asked you to do a birthday or something like that, you can essentially just use that video mode and just record. You don't have to worry about missing the shot, and then you can go back later on and pick out the ones that you want to keep. And it's just a really cool feature. It's great for kids, by the way. I used it a lot with our little boy because, you know, he's often moving so quickly it's hard to get that perfect shot. You use that 4K photo and then you can just pick the one that you want. So all in all, I've had a very good experience. It's been such a fantastic camera to learn with, to grow with. There's so many amazing lenses that you can get. You can choose between Sigma, you can choose between Olympus, you can choose between Panasonic, and the Micro Four Thirds mount is just such a good one to get started with. It is a 16 megapixel sensor, which is still fantastic for creating online content, and you know, the fact that you can shoot 4K at 100 meg means that you can do a lot with the footage after you've taken it. So there we go, guys, just a short review of the Panasonic G7. I highly recommend this camera. I've had such a great experience with it, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.